welcome to another Year 12 Microeconomics practice. This is an old AQA January 2013 paper, but it's really useful, I personally feel, to all exam boards, anyone wanting to refine their general economics knowledge of Year 12 stuff. And it's really good to just make sure that you're not getting caught out by common tricks. And I think it's a generally fun way to revise. Which of the following is a factor of production? We are looking for land, labor, capital, enterprise. They might not phrase it in the same way, but let's take a look and hopefully we find that. Now we've got land here, that's the answer. Discourage growth. I don't really know what I'm looking for. I guess I'm looking for it's difficult to compete with another firm. Maybe the other firm has really low costs, average costs. Or actually A sounds good, this economies of scale. Yeah, if the firm is going to face this economies of scale, maybe it's going to not want to grow because it will have higher costs, and the higher costs can make it maybe less competitive. So that seems to be the answer. Income elasticity is, let me write down the equation. Income, always quantity demanded on the top. This is minus 1.5. And first one's asking me for demand, so let me just rearrange that. To get that, we want the YED times the percentage change in income, and they've given us the YED, so that's minus 1.5. A is asking about a 10% increase in fares. That is not YED, I think. Yeah, that is PED. No, we are not given information on PED, we're given YED information. Bus travel is an inferior good. Okay, that seems good. This is negative, so what would that mean? That would mean, imagine if this is a positive number, then that would mean that needs to be a negative number. So what's going on? So as income increases, quantity demanded is falling, and that's what an inferior good is. We've got demand and supply of butter, and prices increase from P1 to P2. We need something that shifts supply to the left, and we need something that decreases demand, shifts that to the left too. Increase in cost of production, yeah, that's going to shift supply to the left. Decrease in the price of complementary goods. Okay, so if bread gets cheaper, maybe people buy more butter. So I'm not expecting butter demand to fall. So that seems not to be the answer there. Successful advertising campaign for a butter substitute. Yeah, so if maybe olive oil becomes, people buy olive oil more, they'll stop buying butter because they don't need both all the time, I guess. And a tax on butter, yeah, that's going to raise firms' average costs, and so it shifts the supply to the left. Government failure is something that the government tries to fix a market failure and they actually make it worse. They create an even bigger welfare loss. So the government's overproducing a merry-go-round. Okay, whenever over or under, doesn't matter what kind of good. If it's just not in the right amount, then welfare will have been lost. It's kind of difficult to explain this, I guess, briefly. But let's draw a merry-go-round graph. Let's go for it. We've got quantity, we've got price. Okay, so in a free market, we will have QFM. And let's just say, for the sake of this example, the government has gone beyond the social optimum and has just decided to produce, let's go for Q2. Let's say the government has produced Q2. Why is that bad? Because even though this is a merit good, so even though it helps other people, producing too much of it is really expensive for the firm because they face diminishing returns. So you can see here at Q2, the cost of production have been really high. It's faced lots of diminishing returns. So even though it's a good, it's been really expensive to supply. And so that's how much it's cost society to make that Q2 unit, and this is how much it's benefited society. Remember that even though this is a really good English, even then you get diminishing marginal returns. So it just won't have as much of a benefit as maybe it had in the beginning. And so when you've got really high costs and not much of a benefit, even though it's a good that helps other people, it's still adding more to costs than benefits. And so you'll get a welfare loss of that red bit that I've drawn there. So even if it's overproduced, it will have a welfare loss. And you can see all these units between Q star and Q2, all of them had costs higher than the benefits, meaning that the government has actually decreased welfare, even though this is something that's good for other people. It's just not in such high amounts because its cost supply is so much and people have already gained a lot from it. So they've got diminishing marginal utility, making it less of a benefit. I reckon that one's the answer. Free market equilibrium price of a merit good is 50. Right, here we go again. MSP. Good practice this. And free market price is going to be where selfish firms coincide with selfish consumers, which is going to be QFM. And that price is going to be 50, they've told us. And the government does not intervene. The government is most likely to correct the market failure. Okay, how do they correct the market failure? Assuming they did intervene. So they would be best if they can end up getting the quantity. Doesn't matter about the price, what matters is the quantity. Get the quantity to the right level. You want to get the quantity to where the full costs and benefits have been really felt by this market. So Q2. So the government needs to produce more. So I can already exclude maximum prices. Maximum prices and minimum prices. Did you know that both of these reduce quantity? Tax is going to reduce the quantity too, so that is not the answer either. Turns out the subsidy is going, like, by default the right one, but you can imagine kind of how it works too. If you subsidize selfish producers, MPC, you're subsidizing them, the selfish producers will coincide with the selfish consumers at that dot, which has a different price, but it's got the right quantity, and that's what matters if you want to correct the market failure. Got rail services, demand and supply, and we've got a shift of demand higher. So there's more people wanting to travel by rail. So I'm always really skeptical of these demand and supply graphs. There's always tricks involved. They're either talking about different kinds of goods or something. So subsidy shifts supply, so you can ignore that one. Tax shifts the supply, although I'm having thoughts that maybe I should pay attention to what kind of good is being taxed and subsidized, because I'm guessing there's going to be a trick here somewhere. Subsidies of rail travel? No, that would definitely change the supply of rail travel, so that's not the one there. A reduction in the tax on petrol. Okay, what's happening in the petrol market? S1 to S2 on the petrol market. A reduction in the tax would be the other way around. S1 to S2. Petrol gets cheaper. Okay, so if petrol gets cheaper, people are going to travel more by car because it's cheaper. And so they will travel less by rail. So that doesn't seem to be the answer yet either. Major expansion of new track, that's going to shift the supply. I feel I made a mistake. Decision by the government to impose a tax on all car parking. Okay, parking your car is more expensive. People are not going to drive, so they're going to go by rail. Yeah. Okay, that was difficult. I find that difficult. Farm is productively efficient when you're on your PPF. So we're looking for something like that. And we usually find trade-offs there. So I'm scanning through and I don't really see anything easily fitting, I guess. So operating at lowest point on its average cost. Yes, so how that works, because average cost is total cost over quantity. And when you're on your PPF, you've got the maximum possible quantity for all the costs that you've paid, because you've already hired all the people, all the factors of production. So you've got the maximum at the bottom for like the same thing on the top. and so your average cost would fall. To gain monopoly power, looking for things like lots of economies of scale, lots of barriers to entry, that kind of thing. Employment of additional workers as it increases its size. Yeah, more workers maybe could help produce more. Maybe that gives them economies of scale or something permanent. But I guess a monopoly would have to do something a bit maybe larger than that, because they have to be the only supplier in the market, right? So I'm kind of skeptical about diseconomies of scale. No, because that would prevent the company from growing. You want monopolies to be really big, to have high barriers to entry. Granting of a patent for a newly developed drug. Yeah, if you have a patent, it means that you have the unique rights to produce that good. So nobody else can produce it, and that's a legal requirement. So that looks like a really good answer. Government is considering 4 possible capital investment projects. And we've got the private and external costs and benefits. Okay, difficult question. These ones are getting pretty tough. So to maximize welfare, to improve your welfare, you just follow one rule. You want to produce things that have a higher benefit to society than cost, because government is thinking of doing a project. So you want benefits that are higher than the costs. Okay, so to add up the total social benefits, you want to add up all the private benefits plus any externalities, kind of any external benefits going on here. So let's add that up. Let's call this, I don't have much space, social benefits of the hospital is going to be the sum of the private benefits and the positive externalities. So this is 800 for the hospital. Let's do the other ones whilst we're at it. 750 for the roads, 2,000 for the railways, and 190 for the housing. At the same time, you want to look at the social costs. So you would do the same principle. Add up all the costs to produce for the firm that's faced. So add up all the private costs. And again, all the external costs. All the external costs would be something like the negative externalities. So let's add up these 2 rows here to get 540 and what is this one? 580. I'm going to add them. And 2,000 plus 200, 2,200, 70 plus 120, 190. Right, so we're looking for the one that can add the most benefits compared to the costs. So it's not going to be housing because they match. It's not going to be railways because the costs are higher. And it looks like hospitals win. They add 260 more benefits than roads, which add only 170 benefits. So we're looking to build hospitals, which means B is the answer. Tricky questions. Good one to practice and learn from. We're looking for a demerit good. Demerit goods, they are harmful to other people. So it's difficult. We use this vocab, so we still use MPB. No, we still use MEB and we use MSBs. But the idea is with the demerit goods, society benefits less than the individuals. Remember, we've got this equation tying things together. So that's actually, I'm probably going on a tangent here, but that's going to mean that this MEB thing must be a negative. Let's make that work. So demerit good is not about supply, but it's about the consumption. And specifically, it's where the society is benefiting less. So you can see here at Q1, society benefits only a 5, and the individual benefits a 10. So this is looking good for a demerit good. Okay, XED, it's just like PED, but you just change it for another good. So we've got good X and good Y, and if this is negative, we must have had opposite signs. So either positive and negative like that, or this way around. So I like to think of examples. So think of Coca-Cola and think of Pepsi-Cola. So if Pepsi increased in price, Pepsi-Cola increased in price, that's going to mean people are going to buy more Coca-Cola. So I know these are not substitutes and therefore they are complements. Shift to the right of the supply curve can be caused by, we're looking for something that makes it easier to produce, like a reduction in average costs. So popularity will affect demand. Rising costs is the wrong way around. We want less costs. Tax. Less costs, we need not more costs. More firms into the industry. Yeah, there'll be more supply. In a free market, the rationing function. Okay, this is what happens when prices increase and then the quantity demanded falls because people can afford it less. So the price will rise, deter some customers from buying the product. Initial equilibrium is 25. And what do we need to do? Price of beef is falling. Yeah, it's falling because supply is increasing. So we need something that causes supply to increase, which is going to be lower average costs of making beef. So higher price of its feed is not the answer. Lower wage for agricultural workers, yeah, because then the beef will be made more cheaply, so more beef will be able to be supplied. So B looks like a good one. Same with C, that also makes it cheaper. So I'm between B and C for this one for now. And let's just kind of write this down for now. Price elasticity of demand, price of beef falls from... Okay, right, so they want us to work this out. This is really interesting. So this is a, remember we do P2 minus P1 divided by P1 times by 100. So do 20 minus 25 divided by 25 times by 100. And typing that into your calculator is minus 20%. At the same time, you've got Q2 minus Q1 divided by Q1 times by 100, which is 8 divided by 50 times by 100, which is 0.16. And then you put it into the PED equation. Percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price, which is minus 20 over here, 0.16. Gives me 0.008. I didn't times the other one by 100. Should times that one by 100 and then I get 16. Got to times that by 100. So I'm looking for something that has a PED that's a 0 point something. So B is the answer. It is negative. The demand curve always is has a negative YED. Americans are underprovided. Okay, because people are selfish and they don't really fully take into account that their goods help other people and they don't care about that. So the answer is because the MSB is higher than the MPB, and that's a problem because consumers consume only on the MPB, so they neglect the other things. Marginal social cost of making the good is greater at the current level of output. Right, let's say at Q1, let's say that, I don't know, let's draw two supply curves. Social cost is higher, so this better be the social cost. And the marginal private cost, let's just put this one here. Oh, there's more. So the so much going on here. The social benefit of the good is greater than its private benefits, again, at this level of output. the social benefit. Whoops. Okay, there's something pretty interesting. MSB is here and MPB is down there. Okay, so what's going to happen? Free market selfish, MPC, MPB, and you end up with Q. Society would have loved MSC, MSB. Society would have loved a little bit less quantity, so there's going to be overproduction, which is a misallocation of resources. Government intervention, so pollution permits to limit negative externalities. Yeah, you put pollution permits on, you know, burning coal and things, anything that generates greenhouse gases and pollution. So the PPF, we're looking at cars and vans, and we need to look at the opportunity cost. So to make one more car, I don't know, let's just say this is one more car. To make that extra car, the company has had to sacrifice making this many vans. That's been the opportunity cost at X. And then let's look at it for Y. So let's just say, and this is like a really not very precise graph, but let's just say again, they had one more car and I don't know, but to me it looks like they've sacrificed a little bit less at Y. So we've got the opportunity cost at X is larger than at Y. Labor productivity, we have two companies and we're tracking their productivity. It looks like firm X has become less productive and firm Y has also become less productive. Firm X had a higher level of labor productivity than Y. No, we cannot compare one firm to another because all we know is this data compares stuff to their base year, but we don't know what the actual value was. There's no equilibrium, we just know the base year, everything's compared to that. So that doesn't look right either. Labor productivity was identical. I can't compare the countries. Labor productivity fell at a faster, okay, I know that's the answer, but fell at a faster rate in firm X between 2008 and 2011. Yeah, so labor productivity has fallen from 150 to 80. So if you work out the percentage change with that, what would that be? So 80 minus 150 divided by 150. This has fallen by 47%. And then for firm Y, it's gone from 120 to 80, which you know is a lower percentage, but out of curiosity, this is a 40 change divided by the original 120, it's a 33% fall. That's how you calculate what's actually changed. Manufacture of rubber tires that make it more efficient to run cars, what it looks like. Supply of petrol will fall. No, this is going to affect the demand of petrol. That's a not in joint supply. That one's a fun one. Demand for crude oil to produce petrol will fall. Yeah, because there'll be less petrol demanded because people don't need petrol as much. So there's going to be less demand for crude oil. Price elasticity of supply for wheat is more elastic in the long run because you've got time to farm and plant the seeds and actually wait for the seeds to grow. Determined by the availability of substitutes, affected by the stocks of wheat available. Yeah, if you've got wheat stored up, then you can use that to increase output if you need it. Okay, we have a merit good here because we've got MSB higher than MPB. And to achieve efficient output, right? So in a free market selfish, free market does MPC, MPB, free market does Q1. And ideally, society would have looked at these two curves and actually produced Q2. So translation, this question just wants to ask, how do we get to Q2? So I'm just going to exclude some already. So minimum prices, they reduce quantity. So that's not going to work. Same with maximum prices, reduce the quantity. Zero rent will create a lot of demand, but it's that the farms won't be able to supply anything. They don't want to supply at zero, so that's not going to work. Provide a subsidy of P3, P2. Okay, P3, P2, by the way, this means subsidy is all of this. So every unit produced is going to become, so let's say Q2 previously could be produced at, I don't know, just add a number 10, and then that 10 will get reduced by all that blue bar down. So the farm is actually able to make Q2 over here. And this is where there's going to be the new selfish farms, MPC plus subsidy. So even in a free market, you get the intersection of this one with this one, which is going to coincide with Q2. That looks like a really good option. Free good has zero opportunity cost, that's a definition. Partial market failure, the market exists, but there's a misallocation of resources. Okay, so that finished really well, and please have a look at any other multiple choice videos. They're really good to test your knowledge, and especially when you're revising Year 12 Micro.